On New Year's Eve in 2008, a group of friends were enjoying themselves when a shocking event took place. A teenager, fueled by fear, alcohol, and drugs, pulled out a weapon and shot a man in the stomach. The teen was being forced into this violent act as the man had threatened his mother's life. Despite being severely injured, the man refused medical help, consumed by a desire for revenge. However, this man was no ordinary victim. He was the leader of a notorious crime gang that terrorized a violent neighborhood in Liverpool. As time passed, this incident led to the man being arrested and sentenced to life in prison. 14 years later, he escaped, catching both law enforcement and the public off guard. The man in question was Daniel G., a name that once sent shivers down spines all over the Grisdale estate and beyond. Daniel, along with his brother Darren, was at the helm of one of the dominating drug trade joints back in the early 2000s. The two brothers of the G-related gang ran a 24/7 narcotics business where drugs were sold openly and young children were conscripted to serve as foot soldiers in their operation. Parents peddling their drugs in front of mortified yet fascinated gazes of their children almost became a commonplace affair. Poor families, too, joined the racketeers to eke out a living for their families. In Grisdale Estate, a poor community was made even poorer by adding to it a hub for dealers and violent crime, where Brothers G played a good part in this degradation process of the area. Daniel and Darren G were part of the new generation of Liverpool-based crime that sprang up with the city's drug boom. Their ruthless tactics combined with extreme violence enabled them to carve their niche within the local underworld. Through the passage of years, their names had become synonymous with fear, violence, and control, and their criminal organization had greatly contributed toward the social decay within Grisdale Estate. While they were probably no more active in the rising narcotics business in Liverpool, they definitely proved to be some of the most infamous. The reign of terror by Daniel had come to a very abrupt end when he was committed to indefinite imprisonment for public protection in 2010. He was sentenced to serve his time in various high-security prisons. Daniel escaped from a low-security Category D open prison, Kirklevinton Grange in Stockton-on-Tees, after serving nearly 14 years of imprisonment. Cleveland police were shocked to the core when Daniel made off on May 27, 2023. The whole public was shocked and released by the police for manhunting around Cleveland. Open prisons like Kirklevinton Grange serve inmates who are deemed to be low risks and are at the tail end of their sentences. These facilities afford limited physical security so that inmates leave the prison premises during the day to receive work experience, education, or to participate in some rehabilitation activities. Daniel's case, however, raised a few questions. Why would somebody who spent years in stiff, highly secure conditions run away from an open facility with relatively few restrictions? What was the motivation for this daring breakout, especially when the fact that his release from a Category D prison was likely an indication of good behavior for some time? The prison service was quick to confirm that, while the breakup of Category D prisons is a rare event, offenders who abscond face serious consequences. A region-wide manhunt was launched over Daniel G's disappearance. Descriptions of Daniel, 6 foot tall, stocky build, balding head, last seen wearing a black jumper, Adidas trousers, and black trainers were distributed to the public. Police said he could have friends in several areas, not least North Yorkshire, St. Helens, and Merseyside, and may now travel north to Scotland or even abroad. This is a painful reminder to the citizens of Liverpool, especially the locals at the Grisdale Estate, who vividly recall the terror Daniel and his brother unleashed upon their community. The escape also serves as a biting reminder that no matter how much law enforcement tries to fight it out, the issue of organized crime remains an open battle. Crime groups transform themselves, becoming more potent in their processes and mechanisms, without changing the inherent violence and exploitation. Some crime bosses relocate to someplace as far-flung as Dubai to seek refuge from laws. They remain the target of international investigation. Daniel G's escape has heightened the sense of urgency in the battle against organized crime, but also everybody wonders how long will it take to bring this feared criminal behind bars again. The story of Daniel G. and life behind bars is one painted about prison in its grimmest of hues, especially for someone into violent crimes and under judicial notice. While being kept in an open prison, which comparatively is more relaxed than the stern categories of imprisonment, did not prevent the constant issues prisoners like him have to deal with. His life was full of substance misuse, brawls, and fragile trust built with parole officers. The opportunity to get out is there, but comes at a very heavy cost to that. Trust is broken, and any movement that may have been made towards parole is essentially undone in Daniel G.'s case. Though he had spent years turning his life around, for Daniel G., he was still a very dangerous man. The man had a dark past characterized by his illegal activities, especially during his heyday with his brother in the early years of 2000. They terrorized their neighborhood with their nefarious activities. The G brothers were infamous in their neighborhood, being on the wrong side of the law as members of an organized crime outlet, especially drug dealing. Their path from juvenile delinquency to full-fledged drug lord, as well as their operation, showed exactly how much criminal activity could be increased. And at the height of their drug trade, the G's banked around $20,000 a week. Of course, they were to use extreme violence, which would ensure control over their territory. And it would also make the G's some of the most feared villains in the locale. They became employers, building up a network of loyal foot soldiers, most of whom were young people from their own neighborhood. In return for loyalty, protection, and security, they offered them money much higher than what these youths could earn otherwise. They have continued to run such violent machinery, and their notoriety increased with them as they become a force to be reckoned with, not only to their rivals, but even the authorities themselves. The more heinous their crimes, the greater commitment became to eradicating their power. This led to an exclusively formed task force dedicated to bringing them down. Finally, this led to Daniel's brother being arrested and Daniel G. to continue his consorting with crime to maintain their illegal empire. Daniel G. survived and continued his reign of terror until an accident knelt him. A teenager, Jamie Starkey, could not take the threats and attacks which made him to shoot Daniel G. in self-defense after the relentless harassment. While Starkey was incarcerated for what he had committed, Daniel G.'s troubles were far from over. Incarcerated in prison as part of the sentence for his commission of a narcotics conspiracy, an undercover investigation discovered Daniel's intention to kill Starkey in reprisal. Secretly recorded conversations made during the undercover investigation revealed Daniel was still scheming of violent intent. It was his conviction on blackmail charges, threatening to kill someone, and a conspiracy involving firearms which led him to the prison cell where he was accommodated. Locked away though he was, Daniel G. never seemed to lose his penchant for trouble. His conduct in prison is aggressive, uncooperative, and led to 4 periods of solitary confinement. One incident that struck him off as a violent character was overpowering 10 prison guards. Even his brother Darren G. admits that Daniel's temperament had not changed. With all of this in mind, it was surprising that Daniel G. was transferred to an open prison, Kirkleavington Grange. Generally, such prisons are considered rehabilitation and resettlement prisons, with the aim of eventual release. It is a time when the prisoner has the possibility of coming much closer to freedom, given that he had passed more than a decade in the imprisonment yard. However, this came with a great opportunity, as Daniel proved good about his escape from the prison, giving many a shock. Why would he want to abscond at such a time when he was nearing the date for his release? This question raised debate not only amongst the public, but also those who followed his case. There are various theories that have been put forward concerning his reasons for running. One theory has to do with the abuse of drugs. Daniel G. was reportedly to be dependent on synthetic drugs, including spice, which might have further dimmed his reasoning. It is also speculated that after spending years locked up, enraged at the law enforcers in general and policemen particularly, he was no longer in a position to keep still and ran to settle scores with the system, which had imprisoned him for a long period. Whichever the reason, his escape has serious repercussions. In broad terms, an attempt to escape from an open prison adds only 6 months to the sentence served by the offender. In the case of Daniel G., because he is an IPP sentence, his escape will most probably have much graver repercussions on his prospects for release. The IPP sentence has come in for high condemnation and was officially abolished in 2012. There is no definitive date on which such persons as Daniel G. would be released, unless they are able to prove that there is no longer a public danger from them. The prisoners were accused of being placed within a limbo state where it becomes difficult to reintegrate them into society. Daniel G.'s disappearance may simply have ratified the authorities' worst fears concerning his dangerousness, and his prospects for release look slimmer than ever. But the whole purpose of the IPP was to protect society from these dangerous criminals. The authorities claim, and yet many believe, it only feeds into an imprisonment cycle, rather than setting a definite path toward freedom. For Daniel G., it may have been the last realistic chance to hope for release. After the Regency Hotel shooting, notorious mobsters Daniel Kinahan and Thomas "Bomber" Kavanagh, who was David Byrne's brother-in-law, formed a deadly alliance in early 2017. Their plan was to eliminate James "Mago" Gately, an associate of the Hutch gang, making him their primary target. Although their partnership seemed promising, their carefully planned operation went horribly wrong, leading to the loss of their most trusted lieutenants. On April 3, 2017, an EasyJet flight from Alicante to Dublin landed. A tall, handsome man with bright blue eyes and long gray hair, looking like he belonged in a movie, stepped off the plane. Dressed in combat trousers and hiking boots, carrying a backpack with a rolled-up tent mattress, he appeared to be a tourist ready for a holiday in Ireland. However, this man was actually an Estonian hitman named Imre Arakas on a mission to kill. The story of Imre Arakas, known as the Butcher, began when he arrived in Dublin. On board the flight were several agents from the Irish Criminal Investigation Department who kept a close watch on him. Observers at Dublin Airport and a waiting arrest team followed him in a white Mercedes. The next morning, armed police raided the house where Arakas was staying, arresting him and putting an end to his criminal activities. Arakas, born in Estonia in 1958, was known for his brutality. He was once an actor, wrestler, and freedom fighter, but gained notoriety as a violent criminal during Estonia's post-Soviet gang wars. In 1977, he made headlines for spray painting government buildings and police stations as a political activist. Although he was arrested and later released thanks to his drama teacher's defense, he would later become one of the most feared hitmen in the world. In the 1980s, Arakas and an accomplice robbed a shooting club, stealing handguns and ammunition. The robbery was seen as an act of rebellion against the communist regime. They attempted to flee to Sweden but were caught by the Coast Guard. Arakas managed to escape briefly, but was eventually recaptured and sentenced to 15 years in a harsh Siberian prison. After his release in 1992, Arakas, now hardened by prison, joined the Estonian Defense League, a group that combined politics and crime. They engaged in drug trafficking and targeted Russians, committing numerous attacks and murders, earning him the nickname, the Butcher. In 1996, Arakas moved to Marbella, Spain, where he tried to live a quieter life with his family. Despite this, his past caught up with him, and he survived 2 attacks in Spain in 1998 and 2001. The second attack on Imre Arakas in Spain was a close call. He barely escaped from a frantic gunman. 2 Estonians were later jailed for that shooting. During this time, Arakas teamed up with criminal groups like the Kinahan clan, agreeing to take on their assignments for payment. He is suspected of being involved in several murders across Europe, including the 2015 killing of Deimantas Bugavicius, a Lithuanian drug dealer who was involved with a famous pop star. Bugavicius, who was 26, was shot 12 times in November 2015. Years later, the Kinahan clan was engaged in a violent feud with the Hutch family. In February 2016, there was an attempt on Daniel Kinahan's life during a boxing weigh-in at the Regency Hotel in Dublin. Although Daniel survived, his associate David Byrne was killed. The Kinahans believed that James Gately, a prominent Hutch associate and kickboxer, was behind the attack and decided to target him in return. They wanted to avoid a repeat of the 2016 mistake where Martin Doyle, an innocent father, was accidentally killed by a drug addict's stray bullet. To handle the situation, the Kinahans hired professional hitmen, including Arakas, to kill Gately. Arakas, who owed the Kinahans money, was promised 100,000 euros for the job, which would help reduce his debt. However, international authorities tipped off the Irish police about Arakas's arrival. The police set up surveillance, leading to Arakas's arrest. When the police raided Arakas's hideout, they found papers with Gately's address and instructions on how to find his photo online. Arakas's BlackBerry was also seized, revealing encrypted messages that included his murder instructions. A clever Garda officer managed to photograph these messages before they were remotely deleted. The messages showed that Arakas planned to kill Gately in his garage. In December 2018, Arakas was sentenced to 6 years in prison after a brief trial in Ireland for conspiring to murder Gately. He was initially held in a maximum security prison, but was later transferred. In October 2018, he suffered a stroke and received a pacemaker. By early 2023, after completing his sentence in Ireland, Arakas was extradited to Lithuania to face trial for his role in Bogovic's murder. Lithuanian authorities claimed that Arakas supplied handguns and cleaning chemicals used in the shooting. Back in Ireland, the Kinahan cartel struggled with the fallout from their failed attempt on Gately's life. The botched hit not only failed to eliminate their rival, but also exposed critical parts of their operations. One key member, Douglas Glynn, who managed the cartel's drug warehouse, was sentenced to 8 years in prison. Police found a large stash of drugs and ammunition in his warehouse. New technology had helped the Gardaí trace Glynn through encrypted messages that showed he received instructions directly from Daniel Kinahan. So who is Douglas Glynn, and how did the Gardaí uncover his role? Glynn, a 37-year-old father of 3 from Dublin's north inner city, was loyal to Kinahan despite the area's association with the Hutch family. Although Glynn was a lesser-known figure in the Kinahan cartel, his role was crucial. Douglas Glynn was a quintessential Wunno, Mr. Nobody, someone deeply trusted by the Kinahan cartel, especially by Daniel Kinahan himself. Yet he managed to stay off the radar and out of the media spotlight. He functioned as a key manager for the cartel, remaining in Ireland to oversee operations, while prominent figures fled to Dubai, Spain, or faced arrest. Despite the cartel's reduced visibility at the time, it continued major drug operations, and Glynn was responsible for the day-to-day management of a secret drug storehouse. Advances in encryption technology eventually revealed that Daniel Kinahan was in direct contact with Glynn regarding the storehouse operations. Although Kinahan claimed to be a legitimate businessman, he used encrypted phones to coordinate with Glynn while waging a feud against the Hutch family. The secret depot was raided in March 2017 after surveillance had been set up. Prior investigations had already raised suspicions about Glynn, leading to a search warrant executed on March 31st. Inside the storehouse, the Gardaí discovered 1.5 million euros worth of drugs and over 330 rounds of ammunition. It is believed that millions in drugs had passed through the depot before its discovery. As part of the investigation into a failed assassination attempt on James Gately, the Garda National Drugs and Organized Crime Bureau, GNB, found Glynn's BlackBerry. This device revealed his connection to the depot and direct communications with Kinahan and other senior cartel members in Dubai. One day after Glynn installed a tracking device on Gately's car, the depot was uncovered. Although the phones were seized in 2017, new technology in February 2021 enabled their decryption. It was revealed that Kinahan used the codename Bon to communicate with Glynn, who was managing the depot and giving out instructions. Glynn was sentenced to 8 years in prison for his role in managing the depot, having pleaded guilty to conspiracy involving drugs and ammunition. His brother Anthony and associate EMT Fogey, who received a 5-year sentence in 2018, were also implicated. A message from Anthony Glynn to Douglas described Fogey's panic over the size of the boxes at the depot, which were too large to be moved by one person. This was Glynn's second prison sentence from the same court. He was already serving a 6.5-year sentence for his involvement in the failed murder plot against Gately. The court had noted the seriousness and sophistication of the criminal organization Glynn was associated with, the Kinahan cartel. Daniel Kinahan, who had remained in Dubai for nearly a year after the U.S. government imposed sanctions and a bounty on him, is still being pursued by investigators. They hope to charge him with directing organized criminal activities. And that's a wrap on today's deep dive into the turbulent events surrounding the Kinahan cartel and their failed attempt on James "Mago" Gately's life. From the botched operation involving the infamous hitman Imre Arakas, to the unraveling of Douglas Glynn's critical role in the cartel's drug operations, it's clear that 2017 was a year of significant upheaval for the Kinahans. That's it for today's video. What are your thoughts on this topic? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel for more content. In a monumental operation, a notorious gang involved in importing drugs worth over £1 billion into the UK has been dismantled, with its members receiving a total of 195 years in prison. This high-profile case, which has captured national attention, was the result of a meticulous 4-year investigation spearheaded by the Metropolitan Police and the National Crime Agency, NCA, often referred to as Britain's FBI. The effort has led to the imprisonment of 12 dangerous individuals, effectively halting a massive influx of Class A drugs into various parts of the UK, including London. The story of this operation began in 2020 when the Metropolitan Police started focusing their attention on a West London-based criminal gang. This gang, led by Paul O'Brien and Lee Mortimer, was known for its extensive drug trafficking network. The investigation took a significant turn on May 29, 2020, when NCA investigators identified O'Brien as a major player in the drug trade. This breakthrough came after surveillance operations uncovered a crucial drug exchange involving O'Brien, Mortimer, and other gang members. Paul O'Brien, a career criminal with a long history of drug trafficking and money laundering, was a central figure in the gang's operations. His activities spanned between Ireland and the Netherlands, where he managed the importation and distribution of drugs. O'Brien was linked to Operation Venetic, a major crackdown on encrypted communications platforms like EncroChat. This platform was used by criminals to coordinate their activities securely. Through EncroChat, investigators discovered plans for transporting cocaine and significant amounts of cash. One particular transaction, scheduled for April 4, 2020, highlighted the scale of the operation. 2 vehicles, including a heavy goods vehicle, HGV, and a car, met in Udel, Netherlands, where they exchanged drugs worth up to £1 million if sold in the UK. The drugs were successfully smuggled into the UK later that day, with plans made for their collection in Ireland. This operation was part of a larger scheme that involved moving €300,000 and €600,000 in cash between Ireland and the Netherlands. On April 10, 2020, €300,000 belonging to O'Brien was collected near Lath, Ireland, and transported to the Netherlands. A month later, a similar operation was planned for €600,000 at a bus station in Derry, Ireland. However, during this transaction, authorities from the Garda Síochána intervened, leading to the arrest of the couriers and the seizure of the cash. O'Brien's downfall began when his EncroChat device was seized on May 29, 2020, leading to his arrest by the Metropolitan Police. He was subsequently charged with conspiracy to commit crimes abroad. At his trial, he pleaded guilty to 3 counts and was sentenced to 21 years in prison. This sentencing was a pivotal moment in the investigation, leading to further arrests and the seizure of more than 160 kilograms of cocaine, over £1 million in cash, and other high-value assets, including vehicles and jewelry. The investigation into O'Brien's criminal network revealed connections to another significant drug dealing operation based in Greater Manchester. This network, led by Jonathan Stross, was also uncovered through the analysis of encrypted EncroChat messages. The messages detailed the importation of over 8.5 tons of cocaine into the UK between 2017 and 2020. The total value of these drugs was estimated to exceed £1 billion. The Metropolitan Police, working in conjunction with Essex Police, conducted additional raids that led to the seizure of another 138 kilograms of cocaine and 8 kilograms of heroin, which had been smuggled through the Harwich port. Chief Superintendent El Marriott of the London Regional Organised Crime Unit praised the investigation, noting its significance in removing dangerous drug dealers from the streets of London and other UK regions. Marriott highlighted the devastating impact of drug trafficking on communities, including addiction, health issues, and associated violence. He emphasized the police's commitment to combating drug-related crime and supporting drug users through addiction recovery programs. The investigation served as a stark warning to criminals, demonstrating that law enforcement would relentlessly pursue and bring drug traffickers to justice. NCA Branch Commander Martin Clark commended the collaboration between the NCA and the Metropolitan Police. This partnership allowed for the effective dismantling of an international drug trafficking network with global connections. The successful prosecutions and custodial sentences handed down to the gang members reflected the dedication of both agencies to protecting the public from organized crime. Following the extensive investigation and numerous arrests, the sentencing of the key figures involved in the £1 billion drug operation marked a significant milestone in the fight against organized crime. The sentences handed down reflect the seriousness of their offenses and the substantial impact of their criminal activities on society. Paul O'Brien, one of the principal figures in the drug trafficking network, received a sentence of 21 years imprisonment for his role in conspiring to import Class A drugs. His co-defendant, Lee Mortimer, was sentenced to 18 years for conspiracy to supply Class A drugs and money laundering. Mortimer's involvement was crucial in the distribution and financial management of the drugs. Other members of the gang received varying sentences based on their roles and contributions to the criminal enterprise. Marcus Elmer was sentenced to 15 years and 6 months for drug supply and money laundering, while Jonathan Whitley received a 10-year sentence for conspiracy to supply cocaine and money laundering. Anthony Cheyenne was given a 4-year prison term, and Marston Judas received 16 years. Jonathan Strauss, another key figure, was sentenced to 31 years in prison, and Matthew Parsons was handed a 29-year sentence. Additional members included Paul Shaw, who received 17 years and 9 months, and Lechero, who was sentenced to 9 years and 2 months. John Maguire and Ross Maguire were sentenced to 16 years and 1 month and 7 years and 7 months, respectively. The sentences were the result of a coordinated effort by law enforcement agencies to tackle a significant criminal network. This crackdown not only dismantled the drug trafficking operations, but also disrupted a major source of illegal drugs entering the UK. The extensive nature of the operation underscored the scale of the criminal activities and the impact on public safety. The significant sentences and successful operations serve as a powerful message to those involved in organized crime. Law enforcement agencies continue to work together to target criminal networks and mitigate the impact of drug trafficking on communities. The collaborative efforts between the Metropolitan Police and the NCA exemplify a unified approach to combating serious crime and ensuring that those who engage in such activities face justice. The dismantling of the £1 billion drug syndicate and the substantial sentences handed down to its members represent a landmark achievement in the fight against organized crime. This extensive operation, carried out by the Metropolitan Police in conjunction with the National Crime Agency, NCA, underscores the relentless efforts of law enforcement agencies to disrupt and dismantle dangerous criminal networks that pose significant threats to public safety. The investigation, which spanned over 4 years, was a testament to the tireless work and dedication of the officers involved. By targeting a major West London-based gang led by Paul O'Brien and Lee Mortimer, the authorities managed to halt a massive flow of Class A drugs into the UK, safeguarding communities across the country from the devastating effects of drug trafficking. The successful seizure of over 160 kilograms of cocaine, more than £1 million in cash, and other high-value assets highlighted the scale and impact of the operation. In conclusion, the dismantling of the £1 billion drug syndicate and the subsequent sentencing of its members represent a major victory in the fight against organized crime. The detailed investigation and substantial prison terms reflect the dedication of law enforcement agencies to safeguarding the public and addressing the challenges posed by drug trafficking and related criminal activities. As these criminals face justice, the message is clear. Law enforcement remains steadfast in its pursuit of those who threaten public safety and well-being. In the world of mixed martial arts, MMA, where countless fighters have graced the octagon with their talent and determination, one name stands out not just for his accomplishments, but for his meteoric rise to fame: Conor McGregor. Known today for his flamboyant personality and impressive victories, McGregor's journey to the top of the sport wasn't always the headline-grabbing story it is now. Join us as we revisit the pivotal moments and challenges that shaped Conor McGregor's early career, offering a fresh perspective on how this once-overlooked fighter evolved into one of the most celebrated and controversial figures in MMA history. Before we dive into the details, make sure to subscribe to our channel for more gripping content that keeps you informed and aware. So let's dive in it. Conor McGregor, one of the most charismatic and controversial figures in mixed martial arts, MMA. Known for his brash personality, sharp wit, and unparalleled fighting skills, McGregor has captivated audiences worldwide. Despite only being in the UFC for less than 3 years, he has emerged as one of the company's biggest stars. McGregor's journey in MMA began in 2006 in his hometown of Dublin, Ireland. He started training at Straight Blast Gym under the guidance of coach John Kavanagh. This move would lay the foundation for his future success. On March 8, 2008, McGregor had his first professional fight, where he secured a second-round TKO victory over Gary Morris at Cage of Truth 2 in Dublin. This win marked the beginning of his meteoric rise in the sport. Before making his mark in the UFC, McGregor had already become a dual-weight champion in the Cage Warriors promotion. On April 16, 2011, he delivered a stunning knockout against Paddy Doherty in just 4 seconds, showcasing his explosive striking power. This fight was a testament to McGregor's rapid rise through the ranks. McGregor's ascent continued with significant victories, including his win over Dave Hill on June 2, 2012, where he claimed the Cage Warriors featherweight championship with a second-round submission. This victory was McGregor's first taste of MMA gold, and it was only the beginning. Just 7 months later, on December 31, 2012, McGregor captured the Cage Warriors lightweight title with a first-round TKO victory over Ivan Buchinger, marking his last fight outside the UFC. The victories have been coming ever since for McGregor. Cage Warriors allowed him to build a solid fan base in Ireland as he lifted both their featherweight and lightweight titles in front of his hometown crowd in the Helix. When Dana White came to Trinity College in Dublin to collect an honorary award, he was bombarded by McGregor's fans who insisted that White needed the Irishman's signature. McGregor's star was really born on April 6, 2013. Taking that big step up to face Marcus Brimage in his UFC debut in Stockholm, the thunderous uppercuts of the Irishman brought the American down in just 67 seconds. In the press conference afterwards, McGregor had the gathered media folded with laughter as he told them he would have to tell the social welfare office at home to fuck off because he found himself a job. He spoke of a desire for tailored suits, sports cars, and luxury. After Brimage came Max Holloway, and despite claiming the only decision victory of his career that night, McGregor injured his knee and was forced out of action for a year. The magnitude of what McGregor really means to the Irish was felt on his return to the sport in Dublin last July. McGregor insisted that he would drag the UFC back to Ireland after making his debut. He said he would bring his teammates with him. That summer night in Dublin, McGregor foresaw a first-round TKO over Diego Brandão, and he gave the people exactly what they wanted. 3 of his teammates also took victory on the night. After that, he brought his sharp tongue and unique skill set to Las Vegas, where the Irish followed in great numbers to see another first-round TKO over Dustin Poirier. Again, they followed him to Boston, where he sent Dennis Siver packing in 2 rounds. Then came the talk of titles. McGregor's journey to greatness continued on July 11, 2015, when he earned his first UFC title. At UFC 189, he faced Chad Mendes, defeating him via TKO to claim the interim featherweight title. This fight was McGregor's first time headlining a UFC pay-per-view event, and the pro-Irish crowd made it an unforgettable experience. The event showcased McGregor's charisma and fighting prowess, solidifying his status as a star in the UFC. His ability to promote fights and generate hype was evident, making him a box office draw. The pinnacle of McGregor's career came on December 12, 2015, at UFC 194. He faced Jose Aldo, the reigning featherweight champion, and stunned the MMA world with a knockout victory in just 13 seconds. This victory not only dethroned Aldo, considered one of the greatest fighters in the division's history, but also cemented McGregor's place in MMA history. The knockout, a testament to McGregor's precision and power, remains one of the fastest finishes in UFC title fight history. This win was so remarkable that it is often cited as one of the greatest moments in MMA history, showcasing McGregor's ability to deliver on the big stage. With the UFC featherweight title in his possession, McGregor had set his sights on even loftier goals. Before pursuing new challenges, he faced Nate Diaz at UFC 196 on March 5, 2016, stepping up to welterweight, a full 25 pounds above his usual fighting weight. This fight was a significant test of McGregor's versatility and endurance. Despite the weight difference, McGregor's confidence remained unshaken, but Diaz's durability and grappling skills proved to be a formidable challenge. McGregor lost the bout via submission in the second round, marking one of the most surprising upsets in UFC history. This loss was a humbling experience for McGregor, but it also served as a learning opportunity, highlighting areas where he needed to improve. Such is the marketing power of McGregor that many feel he has been fast-tracked to Jose Aldo's title by UFC. Chad Mendes and Frankie Edgar were popular choices when it came to who was the rightful contender to the Brazilian's crown. Both Mendes and Edgar are from wrestling backgrounds, and many believe they could bring something new to the table when it comes to a challenge for McGregor, unlike Aldo, who operates within the same striking wheelhouse as the Irishman. When Aldo, the division's champion, was forced out of the contest, Mendes stepped in, and interest in the event hasn't dwindled at all. It's still very much the McGregor show, and he didn't have to fight. Although the UFC reclassified the bout, which is now for an interim title, McGregor could have waited another 7 weeks to get his hands on Aldo. However, with the traveling support, he felt it was his duty to perform for his countrymen. Today, McGregor and the UFC have broken into the Irish mainstream. He has been the most Googled athlete in the country over the last 2 years. As he puts each of his opponents away, the more the Irish talk about him. He has his fair share of detractors too, even in his homeland. His over-enunciation of words, something he does to make him more appealing to U.S. advertisers, infuriates his disparagers. McGregor's lack of caution in front of any kind of challenge bothers them. He talks down to his opponents, where the Irish are used to more soft-spoken, respectful, and reluctant champions. The violence of the sport has been a big talking point too. It just seems too barbaric for some of McGregor's countrymen. However, those who are fans of McGregor worship him. He is the success story that his generation wanted to be. He is self-made, self-sufficient, and he literally punches, kicks, knees, and elbows his way through every obstacle that is put in front of him. The suits, the cars, and the money are all part of the McGregor package now, as he has literally become a millionaire off a sport that didn't exist in the Irish consciousness before he came along. He is at the forefront of the sport globally. He is ushering in a new era in the fight game, both with his selling statistics and his technical abilities. A quarter of the MGM Grand Garden Arena will be made up of Irish support on Saturday, despite the fact that the country is just popping its head out of a financial crisis. Sinead O'Connor will sing McGregor to the octagon on the night. Arnold Schwarzenegger has even dropped by to say hello to the Dubliner during his preparation in Nevada. It's McGregor mania. So in conclusion, from humble beginnings in Dublin to global superstardom, Conor McGregor's rise is a testament to raw talent, unwavering determination, and an unparalleled ability to captivate audiences. His journey, marked by both triumphs and setbacks, has redefined the landscape of MMA. As his legend continues to grow, one thing is certain: Conor McGregor is a force to be reckoned with, both inside and outside the octagon. So in the end, make sure to subscribe to our channel for the latest news, insights, and in-depth analysis. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.